and on we'll go.
Good day, learners. Welcome to the second meeting of our Practical Research 1 class. So for today, we're going to talk about ethics of research, its definition, its importance, and principles. Ethics is defined as rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad. It deals with what society thinks is right and wrong in a particular situation. It is one of the things we need to take into account when conducting research. Since social research usually deals with people, over the course of the study, we have to ensure that no harm comes to them. And to ensure their well-being, some general principles should be followed when doing research. Research would usually take up people's time and energies, whether just to fill up a survey form or participate in an interview. Research participants have to allocate minutes, hours, or even days to be part of the study. In addition, research participants in some studies are asked to reveal personal information about themselves, their own experiences, histories, and views. In short, they are requested to share a portion of themselves that are often not disclosed in their day-to-day life. They may even reveal vulnerabilities and deep-seated anxieties. In such instances, participants have to be willing to participate in the research. In getting individuals voluntary participation, they will get to know what they are getting themselves into in being part of your study. This entails being open about yourself and about your research topic to your prospective participants. It is also good to point out what the research will require them to do and what risk, if any, they may take as part of the research. Usually, a consent form is prepared by the researcher and participants are asked to sign this. In cases where voluntary participation cannot be followed, then the researcher needs to provide a serious justification. Observance of other ethical principles becomes more crucial in such instances. Never injure or hurt someone is a principle which is especially evident and important in medical research. This is also true in social research. Psychological harm is something to take note of. During in-depth interviews or certain topics, your research participants might reveal personal histories and painful experiences that would make them feel uncomfortable and upset. They might also disclose embarrassing information about themselves that could jeopardize their families, friendships, jobs, or general well-being. For example, when looking into deviant behavior or discussing those that are not in line with societal norms, such as unusual sexual behavior, teenage pregnancies, drug use, or online gambling, can lead research participants to experience distress. To prevent harm to research subjects, the researchers would have to anticipate risks and hazards that might come about during the course of the study. This would entail looking at possible effects your research can have on research subjects. You need to determine all the risks and hazards from the environment, social context, and to the individuals themselves who participate in your research. Some research topics require participants to share a great deal and, at times, sensitive information about themselves. One of the responsibilities of the researcher in such cases is to protect the identities and names of the individuals, organizations, and communities that are part of the study. To ensure that the readers will not be able to identify particular individuals, the use of pseudonyms or aliases can be adopted. For survey research, this could be applied by using no identifying information such as numbers in the survey forms and not requiring respondents to indicate their names. Fourth is confidentiality. Ethics should also be observed in the course of analyzing and reporting the findings of a study. Confidentiality should be kept. This means that the researcher needs to keep the information he or she has gathered to himself or herself. Even if the researcher can identify who gave a particular response, confidentiality entails that this information will not be disclosed to the public. Several measures can be undertaken to practice this ethical principle. Limiting access to the data is one. Removing identifying and other sensitive information in processing data is another. Numbers or codes could be assigned to individuals, and this information would be available to only a few and can be protected. So those are the 4 ethical principles and guidelines that we need to consider in conducting a research study. And why is ethics important in conducting research? Because they promote the aims of research, such as expanding knowledge. They support the values required for collaborative work, such as mutual respect and fairness. And they support important social and moral values, such as the principle of doing no harm to others. Before we will begin our research study, it's important that we know the different research methodologies. Now, what's the difference between qualitative and quantitative type of research? Now, when we say qualitative, it will be focusing on things that are up for discussion and for debate. It will be describing a lot of things. It will be making use of surveys, observations, and interviews. While quantitative will be trying to prove something, it is expressed in graphs and numbers. When it comes to the research part, qualitative will be asking more questions that deals with what and how. They will be asking more open-ended questions. For example, how do learners in a Catholic school view their school, or the online modality of learning offered by the school? There will be a hypothesis because we're not going to predict something. We're going to gauge and understand the society around us. Quantitative, on the other hand, will be looking at variables, trying to either prove a hypothesis or disprove it. Here, the questions that will be asked are a little bit different. Questions are going to be focused around how, what, and does. For example, how much, how often, what is the percentage? Does staying in a quarantine facility actually help stop the spread of the virus? So they're going to look at statistics and numbers to get answers to these questions. Qualitative is more of exploratory. It's not necessarily defining or trying to prove or disprove a hypothesis. When it comes to collecting data, qualitative can make use of sources like newspapers, journals, interviews, observations, or even audio and video materials. Lastly, when it comes to the analysis and the final report, qualitative is going to be set into themes. Researchers are going to take all the observations, all the information that they collected, and try to break it down to different themes. The final report will have a lot of writing, it will have a lot of quotes, and the different things that they have observed, and it will be up for discussion. The participants will be very involved in this part. Quantitative, on the other hand, is not going to have that many words. It's going to be taking in the analysis portion of the different data points that they have collected. And then they're going to break it down to see if there's any statistical significance behind any information that they have gathered. They will have a final conclusion that will either back up the hypothesis or go against it. The quantitative report is going to be a lot more rigid. It's not up for discussion or debate. It's just showing what they have found, and there's less interpretation.